and welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in again, as always. So today I'm going to be talking to you all about placements that we might not particularly get on with, we might not particularly enjoy, placements that we're really struggling with, and I think it needs to be approached because I know a lot of students out there do struggle on certain placements and they're just not enjoying it and they're really struggling to get the motivation to keep going. I was going to do this vlog ages ago and then I completely forgot about it, and then someone made a comment on one of my YouTube videos and said about it, and I was like, yes, I need to do this, thank you for the reminder. So here we are. So in this vlog I'm not going to mention any names, I'm not going to mention any particular ward areas or trusts or anything like that. I'm just talking about one particular placement area that I've had throughout my 3 years journey, or 2.5 years journey so far, and there was one that I particularly didn't enjoy, didn't get on with, really struggled with. So when I come into university I had done a lot of healthcare, but it's mainly been in the community. I hadn't done many wards. I'd picked up 2 bank shifts on 2 different ward areas before starting university, just so I can get a general feel of what the ward's like, and I think I sort of gauged from then that I wasn't going to be a ward nurse. However, I went into university, you know, open-minded, motivated, all of that. I went into my very first ward placement and I didn't like it, and it was nothing bad about the ward. The ward was lovely, the patients were lovely, the staff were lovely. My mentor was she was a really good nurse, and that's the main thing. She was a good, safe nurse, very, very knowledgeable. If I wanted to go to her for anything, she was so knowledgeable, and she always stuck up for me if I had problems with certain people or patients getting angry or anything like that. She would always stick up for me, and I really, really appreciated that. But some people, I don't want to mention any names, but the way people speak to you or spoke to me at the time I didn't like. I thought it was very abrupt, I thought it was very rude. There was no please, there was no thanks with some people, and you were very much, you're the student and that's it. There was no, oh, this is Claire. It was very much the student will do this, the student will do that, get the student to do this, and I didn't like it. I couldn't get on with it. And after my first day, I went home and I sat down and I cried. I thought, oh, it's taken me however many years to get this far, and now I'm questioning if I even want to be a nurse. And that was tough. That was really, really tough to go through that process in my mind and thinking, I've made the wrong choice, I've made the wrong life decision. And I thought, you know what, it was just a bad day. It's just a bad day. I need to go in tomorrow. I'm only here for 8 weeks. I need to get my head down. I need to pass this placement and everything will be okay. And that was pretty much how it went throughout the whole of that placement. I just got my head down. I did everything I could to hide the fact that I didn't like it there. I was really motivated. I was really like, oh my God, let me do this, let me do that. I was really proactive. I was really happy. I was really positive. And towards the end of the placement, actually one of their healthcare assistants said to me, oh, do you know what ward you'd like to go into when you qualify? And I was like, it's a bit too soon for that, but anyway. And I said, to be honest, I'm really not a ward nurse. I don't want to work in a ward, and I very much love the community. I don't mean to offend anybody here, but I love community, and that's where I'm going to go. And she was like, what? And she genuinely said this. She said, I would never have guessed you didn't like wards. Like, you're so active. I thought you actually loved this place, and I thought you loved wards and things like that. And I was like, thank you. I'm so glad that came across like that, because that's how I wanted it to be. I didn't want it to affect anybody around me, just because that's my personal preference and my personal opinion and my perception of people and things. Sorry, I'm going off track now, but one of the lecturers during our first year, it was the end of first year, one of our lecturers, we were talking about being on the wards, being out on placement, and there was a question about, I can't remember what the question was, but somebody answered saying difficult patients or having a challenging patient, and he stopped and he said, is that patient challenging or is that your perception? And I was like, oh my God, he's so right, because what one person perceives to be something, another person will take that completely differently. And it is, if you wake up in a really bad mood, things like that, everything is going to bug you in the day. If you're stressed, if you're anxious, but if you're waking up happy, you're refreshed, you've had a really good night's sleep, you're eating well, you're drinking well, you're really positive, you're going to take things just on the chin and be like, yeah, whatever, and carry on. And I think sometimes it is our perception of things and how we're feeling and how run down we are. But we have to remind ourselves, if we are faced with what we think is a challenging patient or a difficult patient, I really don't like those words anymore, but if we are faced with a patient that we're sort of not getting on with, we have to just sit back and we have to take a deep breath and we have to remind ourselves, do you know what? This patient has been dragged from their home. Well, not dragged, but they've come into hospital. They haven't got their loved ones anymore around them. They have been stripped of their dignity and thrown into a gown. Some people have been padded. Anyway, but you know, they've had all of their dignity stripped of them. We've taken their medication from them. We've taken their meal times from them. We've given them this routine. You will eat at this time. You will have your medications at this time. You will wear these hospital gowns. Although that is not anymore. PJ paralysis is happening. We're getting people out of their pajamas into their own clothes, guys. Don't forget that. Give people a choice. Yeah, so we have to think, do you know what, this person's poorly, they're not well, they're in hospital without anybody, with these new people coming at them. They're going to be scared, they're going to be worried, they're going to be nervous, they're going to be anxious. They are going to take their frustration out on you, but without realising it, and they don't mean to. It's just the way they are, and we have to remember, do you know what, they are a patient and we have to care for them either way. So that is just a tip. If you are facing a patient you can't get on with, they're really affecting you emotionally, just take a step back, have those thoughts and feelings, speak to your mentor, have a debrief, speak to your colleagues, speak to your placement team if you need something, reflect on it, all of that. Do everything you can to sort of distance yourself, distance your emotions, and be able to nurse that patient effectively. Obviously, if someone's physically abusing you and hitting you, that's not okay. We don't tolerate abuse. That's not okay. They need to be told. But if it's just general agitation, things like that, that's kind of understandable, I think. So next, if it's just the ward that you don't like wards like me, I'm not a ward nurse, but I make the most of every single opportunity. There's not much you can do about that. I'm sorry guys, you just need to really get stuck in, ask a lot of questions, make the most of that placement, because every single placement is a completely new learning opportunity. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna get some extra skills. You might learn something that actually you don't like, and you can take that on board as well, because you can think, okay, I don't like that, so in future when I'm a nurse and I'm qualified, I won't put that in my practice. Done. Just please make the most of everything you can. If you feel like you're not learning as much on the wards because you feel like you're doing one particular task, let's just say you're washing patients all day every day and you're not doing other things, and you're an expert on washing patients, but that's all you've done for 6 weeks, you need to just say to your mentor, listen, I really want some experience in this, this and this. Would it be possible to put that in place for me? And it's just the way you approach these things with your mentor as well. So just say, do you know what, I could really learn a lot from you, mentor. Could you show me how to do this? I really want experience in this. I'm only here with you for so many weeks and I really want to get those skills up. Just be really polite and I'm sure they'll accommodate it. It's about being open and honest as well, having those open, honest conversations with people around you, but in a professional, polite manner. Now the tricky one. If your mentor is the problem, because obviously we are human beings, we all have somebody that we're going to clash with, that we don't get on with, just that personality clash, our characters clash. It does happen out there. I've had that, luckily not so much on placement. But I worked somewhere in the world, I don't want to give any confidentiality away, but I worked with a doctor somewhere, and this particular doctor didn't treat me very well. She spoke down to me, she didn't say please, she didn't say thank you. I sort of felt like a little bit used and abused by her, and things that she could quite independently do herself, she was using me to do, but I had other things that I had to do, and it was really tearing my hair out, and she constantly put me down with it. It wasn't that, it was that she put me down with it. So I'd go out my way to do things for her, and then she'd be like, oh no, you have to do it this way, no, you have to do it that way. And even if I did it the right way, she would find, you could see her looking and thinking, what can I say now, because she's done all of this, I need something else to say. And that's how it was every day with that person. But can I just add, she was like that with everyone. It wasn't just me, it was everybody, and there were quite a few complaints made about this particular doctor. I'm not 100% sure why she would do that, but I'm not going to be that person that resorts to biting back or saying things back, because that's not nice, that's not me. So I killed her with my kindness. I know, that is the best thing I did. Anyway, sidetrack. I just wanted to give a little example. But sometimes we don't get on with people, but you still have to make the most of that opportunity. But if you get to the point where you feel like you're being bullied, whether you feel like you're really struggling and you physically can't work with this person anymore, please speak to your placement department at uni, speak to your placement practice managers. You could even speak to the sister on the ward if you felt comfortable with doing that, and just try and sort it out. And hopefully you'll sort it out. But we can't get on with everybody, and I've known students that have actually been pulled off that particular ward because it's been really unsafe for them, and there's been a lot of things happen. So the universities do have things in place for you, and hopefully they will help you. But we just have to be mindful that our mentors are really stressed right now. You know, you've seen the impact of the staff shortages out there. It is stressful. They are going to be really struggling. They're going to be at loose ends out there. They're going to be trying to do 1,000,001 things at once, and then they have to have a student to sort of mentor as well on top of that. So they might snap at you sometimes. They might just get a bit agitated, and so we just have to take into consideration that they're going to have a lot going on, and not to take things personally if they put us with other members of staff instead of having them as our mentor. And we just have to be mindful that they might be struggling as well, and hopefully we can cheer them up and make their day and help out a little bit. I mean, if you feel comfortable talking to your mentor and saying, listen, I really want an open, honest conversation with you. I feel like you're being just a little bit rude with me. Is there anything I can do different? If there's anything I can improve on or build on, please let me know, because I want this relationship to be a good one. You know, I'm only here for 8 weeks and I really want to learn from you because you're a really good mentor. Your knowledge is great, blah, blah, blah. Approach it professionally and approach it well. Don't just go in there all guns blazing, because that's not okay. But if you can sort something out one-to-one with your mentor, I think they would probably appreciate that a lot more than you going to the practice placement manager or the sister and sort of saying, do you know, I'm having a load of problems with my mentor, blah, 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 and going off on one. I think for me, I think that's a really nice way of doing it. And then if you still have problems and if you're really not comfortable doing that, then please speak to your placement managers, please speak to your placement team at uni and sort it out, because it's not fair that you're struggling, and it's not fair that we're not getting the best learning experience from our placements, because we're only there a short time and we need to learn as much as possible before we qualify and we're thrown in at the deep end doing it. So please just take that on board and hopefully sort it out. But all in all, I mean, I've had really good placement experiences. I can't say, even despite not being a ward nurse, I've thrown myself into it and I've got really good experiences from it, and I've learned quite a lot from every single place that I've been at. I know my first ward, I was a bit teary and upset and stuff, like I said at the start of the vlog, but I still made the most of that opportunity, because we have to, as students, we have to make the most of every single placement, whether we like it or not. We have to, because we are here to learn and experience and train. And especially you new students that are just starting and you don't get the bursary anymore, you are paying for this experience, so you're going to want to get what you pay for. You're going to want to learn, you're going to want to train, and you're not going to want to have those poor experiences out there. And I'm going to tell you a little story actually, because it might help your decision whether you speak up or not. So I worked in a care home a few years ago, and I hadn't been there very long, but I'd worked with one particular HCA, and I didn't like the way she spoke to patients. I didn't like the way she was rough with patients. She was She was a nasty person, and I'm going to say that quite loud and proudly. She was nasty. I didn't like working with her. I didn't agree with anything she did. She had no compassion, no empathy, nothing to that. For her, that was just a job. She didn't care about those patients. That wasn't enough evidence for the manager to do anything about. And so I sat back and said nothing, just like everybody else did, because everybody else knew exactly how this woman was. So we all sat back. And then this one day, just by chance, I witnessed this healthcare assistant physically grabbing a patient and dragging them off the chair because they were refusing to go to the toilet at the time that she wanted them to go to the toilet. Oh, no, 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 no. And the times I do speak up is to protect my patients. If I see anyone abuse a patient, speak ill of a patient, be nasty to a patient, anything to do with patient care that affects it badly, negatively, I will be there. Don't you worry, I will have you for it. So off I trotted to the manager's office, wrote a full statement of everything that I'd just witnessed. I wasn't the only person in that room because she did it quite openly in a lounge where there were family members, where there were other care staff. But anyway, so because I'd gone to the manager, because I wrote my statement and spoke up about it, everybody else come forward. Everyone else was so scared to say anything because they didn't like her and they knew what a nasty person she was. They feared her and they didn't want to speak up because of that. And because I come forward and I spoke up, that encouraged everybody else to come up and speak. And I'm so thankful that I did, and I'm so glad that everybody else did. And she was removed. She was gone. She was sacked. Never to touch a patient again. And that was a proud moment. So please, even if you're scared, you have to speak up sometimes. You have to protect your patients. That is what you're there for. You're an advocate for your patients. It's in the NMC code. If you're just turning a blind eye, you may as well be committing the crime as well, because you're not following the NMC code of conduct, which we're supposed to do as nurses, and you're not protecting that patient. And for me, I have always and I will always speak up for my patients. If I see something, I will do something about it. But just wanted to share that story because it might hopefully inspire you that if you see abuse happening out there, if you see this culture out there, you need to report it. Even if you wait until after your placement's over to report it so they don't know it's you, and you can do it anonymously so that it doesn't affect your placement and things like that, please do it. Either way, do it. Doesn't matter what it is. You have to speak up. But anyway, let's end on a high. All in all, I've had fantastic placements. Like I said, I haven't had any issues. It was just my own personal opinions at the very start where I didn't like I said. But all in all, I've had amazing placements, and you are going to have amazing placements. And I just want to reiterate that if you have one bad day, it doesn't mean a bad career. If you have one bad whole placement, 8-week placement, 12 weeks placement, however many weeks placement, doesn't mean you're going to have a bad career. You don't have to work on a ward if you don't want to. You don't have to work in a community if you don't want to. You don't have to work in a care home. You don't have to work. Where you want to be is where you want to be. You don't have to work in that place that you've had your bad experience. You've got a whole amazing, fantastic career of being a nurse, and you are going to find an amazing job at the end of it. A long, long life career ahead of you. So please do not judge anything on one bad day, one bad placement, because your career is going to be amazing.